In this week's sermon, we're talking about purity. And purity comes from a person's right to have the safety and sanctity of their human body not aggressed against, not pressed against, not broken, not abused, not curtailed in some way. So when we talk about abuse, we have to talk about where it begins. Does it begin in the home with a child who's grossly out of fitness? Do we talk about it in terms of the parents that have continued to feed that distance? You see, there's always something going on in a family, but is it healthy? Is it kind? Is it moral? Is it on time, intellectually, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, for that child? But when we talk about a child that's gone wild, we talk about a child that doesn't know where her boundaries begin and end, and sometimes she needs a man in adulthood to say, enough. But that man in adulthood just does it intellectually and lovingly and rebukes her and say, look, I've had enough of this behavior. And this behavior is now impacting my life so much that someone else has been harmed. And when I had to make a choice about making a move on a girl who often came to my home in a loving way, and we were creating a love relationship and friendship every day, I openly had to decide the simple question as a man, who was I in love with? Who was I betrothed to? Who was I required to be with at that time? And what would be the impact on me, on her, or on the future of any coupleship that God planned? And when I was looking at it, I knew there was children that could be impacted. I also knew that there was a man that I didn't particularly care for, I didn't like, and I was so completely offended when she brought her with her that time, or she brought him with her that time, because I was expecting a private conversation. And if we had had that private conversation alone, it might have been interesting to see where our relationship would have gone. But as a mature man who's been married a long time and completely, utterly loyal to his Japanese spouse and wife, I had to say that as much as I wanted that opportunity, as it kept growing fuller and fuller in my soul in a way that I could not believe and I could not hold, I recognized my responsibility to do things lawfully in front of the Lord. And that was allowed to allow the Lord to let His plan play out. But by that time, there was late stages of my life going on, and I was losing my wife in a way that was correct and a way that was wrong. And I couldn't manage all these relationships with women who were of intimate conversation with me, to the point of talking about really intimate topics that is usually not discussed in any way by me in business. So when someone tries to say that we were just friends, that's a lie. We were intimate friends and openly on a path from God. And the path from God was that you were to finish up your relationship with Him. I was to wrap up my relationship with her. However, God chose to do that, as much as I didn't want to lose that. But openly I knew that there was a point in the 19th year that something wasn't mine any longer. The freedom of movement, the freedom of mobility, the freedom to earn, the freedom to win, the freedom to succeed without a magnificent liar at my heels. Now, I'm not talking about my late spouse, because she had integrity to my knowledge in every way. That she came a long distance to be with me, she came a long distance to play with me, she came a long distance to love me in her way. But as I began to fall in love with someone else who God definitely brought in on a prayer in the wings of an angel, I can tell you that He did that once again. And each time I pray in a really deep way, God always answers those prayers.